Hi everyone, welcome to Get Candid, the show about overcoming the harsh realities of getting ideas out of your head and into the world. Let's dig into the creative minds of inspiring people who dare to lead and who were willing to get a little bit candid with me, your host, Clara Peterloo. Lethbridge is home to many unique summer activities and a few really cool summer cruises. But there is one event that really stands out if you are thinking about cars. On this week's episode of Get Candid with Clara, we visit with Peter Brooke, the creative mind behind the Great Beater Challenge. I gotta ask, what is it about cars that speaks to you? Is it something that you fell in love with at an early age, or was it something that developed over time?
Yeah, my family's always been into cars, always been into
And I have to get your opinion on some of these, and tell me if this is something you would expect to see at the Great Beater Challenge.
Sure.
So here's your first one.
Oh yeah. I think my Geo Metro for this year might be getting a flapper valve and a stack off the back of it.
Nice. Oh, I love that.
And of course I have to highlight the fact that it just happens to be parts of a Walmart park.
Yeah.
But that just speaks to the level of class.
Yeah.
Great, welcome everyone to Get Candid with Clara. I'm your host, Clara Peterloo, and I'm here today with our very first time ever co-host, Ben Martin. Thank you so much, Ben, for coming in to co-host.
Hey Clara, I appreciate it.
And more importantly, we're here with our very special guest, Peter Brooke. Peter, you come to us from the Great Beater Challenge. Thank you so much for agreeing to be on our show today. We are excited to talk cars and talk about your event. Can you tell us a little bit about the Great Beater Challenge?
Well, essentially the Great Beater Challenge is an event with cheap cars built on a budget in very silly fashion and with hilarious themes that we then take on a weekend road trip of about 1,000 kilometers and try to see if we can survive.
So it's like stupid cars, stupid cheap, stupid fun.
Exactly.
That's your hashtag.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's great. Well, hey, okay. So if I wanted to get in on the Great Beater Challenge, what do I have to do to get in on this? It sounds amazing.
Well, essentially, all you have to do is enter online. It's $60 up until July 15th. After that, it goes up to $100, but you can still enter up until the event, which is the last weekend of August. And then as far as that, you need to find yourself a vehicle. So you have a budget of $700 to purchase it, repair it. You can sell pieces off of it to get some money back towards the budget. And once you have your vehicle and your team, you're ready to go.
Okay, this sounds ridiculously fun. Okay, so you have a $700 budget.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain a little bit more what this budget is and how do you determine that the participants are indeed only spending $700?
Most of it is down to trusting them that they're going to be honest about it. At the end of the day, they're competing for a homemade trophy and the admiration of their fellow shitbox lovers. So they're essentially we come down to that, but we do have them try to provide some sort of proof that they bought their vehicle for what they bought and what they've spent on parts parts, etc.
Okay.
You know, one of the fun things I know about the Great Beater Challenge is that you guys have a mods category for participants who come up with either the silliest or kind of the craziest customizations or mods for the vehicle. So, and I know you guys score a little bit on that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes, there's kind of a judge's choice category, which we actually, it changes a little bit every year, but it comes down to the judges and they can decide on the vehicle's modifications, overall theme. A lot of people will dress up and make a whole theme out of it, as well as their likelihood to fail. We score highly, the higher, it's more likely it is to fail, the more points they get.
So bonus points for hard luck.
Exactly, yes. Yeah. Well, and the whole thing about it is we want people to be potentially broken down on the side of the road, but still having fun, and we don't want it to be unsafe. So we make sure that certain things like brakes and tires and stuff are looked after. They're not included in the budget.
Okay, gotcha. So you have a $700 budget to get this car together. If you do end up breaking up on the side, down on the side of the road, or with any luck you break down through some small town, can you bring your car into the mechanic to get it quickly fixed and back on the road?
Essentially, yeah. Most entrants for the challenge are pretty mechanically inclined, so they will be fixing their own stuff on the side of the road, or generally if somebody sees a vehicle broken down, they will pull over and help. We're all a big team and we're trying to get everybody through to the finish.
Oh, sick. Okay, can you tell, for anybody who's watching who wants to, thinks the Great Beater Challenge is amazing and wants to get in, or at least follow, where can people find you and how do they register?
Well, we're on Facebook under the Great Beater Challenge. We also have our website, greatbeaterchallenge.com, as well as the entry is actually taken care of on Motorsports Reg. You can search for us on there and enter on there. There's also links to it both from our Facebook and on our website.
Okay, you said the race was 1,000 kilometers.
Mm-hmm. Approximately.
Approximately. So where is it this year? Have you mapped it out already?
So this year we're actually starting up north. We're starting in Rocky Mountain House, and then we're driving up through oil country up to Grand Cache, and then we're coming back again and finishing again in Rocky Mountain House, but through a different route on the second day.
So this sounds like it might be a bit of a more challenging terrain with the changes in elevation.
Mm-hmm. We have actually the very first year we ran the Great Beater Challenge, we did it through BC, and one of the challenges was to see who could do the slowest full throttle speed up the Salmo Crested Pass. So I think that was won by a Chrysler K car.
And so with the challenge, there's also little challenges within the challenge. It's not really a race, it's more of a rally.
Exactly, yeah. There's no racing to it. You don't get anything by finishing first. We implore everyone to follow the road laws and everything, but it's basically you do challenges along the way as well as finding different little checkpoints and things to photograph along the way. You'll get things like a picture of something random and it'll be, find this. And you have to randomly find it somewhere on the route. You'll have to, if you look at the cool things along the route, you'll probably find it, but sometimes they're easier than others.
So it's kind of like the Great Beater Challenge with a slight amazing race thrown in, but without the race.
Yeah, a little bit.
So what are some of the years gone by? Like what are like who typically comes into these challenges? Can you share with us a past winner maybe and what their experience was like?
Yeah, we've had all types come on, everything from families to just local car enthusiasts. We have some people who have come down from, like when we've started the event in Lethbridge before, we've had people come down from all the way from Slave Lake and way up North Grand Prairie area and drive their vehicles to the start. We give bonus points based on how far they travel to get to the start, even up to a certain amount. But
not on the back of the trailer, but actually.
Actually driving, yeah. One of the previous winners we had actually was driving one of my old cars, but it was a team with an old Saab 900 that decided to bolt a turbocharger and intercooler setup complete to the roof rack of the car, with piping all running down, and they actually they turned heads everywhere they went. They wound up winning the event overall, and they wound up on an Australian YouTube car show called Mighty Car Mods. They have their second channel, and they were featured on their Unicorn Circuit show.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so what kind of inspired you to start the challenge? What was your passion that got you going with the Great Beater Challenge and motivated you to start the event?
Well, essentially, it had been something that we knocked around between myself and some other friends for a while. Different ideas of doing it, different things, but we wanted to do something with cheap cars and traveling a long distance. And we've gotten some friends together and tried a couple times to get something started, but people were busy and then things to look after. And then at one point, I kind of just thought to myself, no, okay, I'm going to do this, whether I get people to come or not. If I don't, okay, I've just had a fun little trip by myself. But I put it out there, and the first year we ran it in 2016, I had 8 teams come along, and at that time I was amazed that I managed to convince 8 people to buy vehicles and come on this event. But since then we've grown huge, and we're looking probably at about 50 teams this year.
Oh, that's fabulous. That's fantastic, especially coming back after COVID. I'm sure you had to cancel the events.
Mm-hmm. We managed to pull off a GBC Junior in 2020, which was just a short single-day event where we had to follow COVID protocols, so there wasn't a whole lot of challenges or anything. It was just basically kind of drive the route with a few other people.
Yeah, because you said it was 1,000 kilometers, so you do have an overnight stop.
We do, yes. So Grand Cache is our overnight stop this year.
Okay, so during that overnight stop, I bet everyone's obviously making mad rush to do tune-ups, etc.
Yeah, but a lot of it is people camp a lot of the times. They turn it into a fun camping trip. We give bonus points for people to sleep in their own vehicles. So some discomfort is involved sometimes, and we take joy in that.
Because how far you want to push or how far you want to go with the Great Beater Challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So from the years that you've done the Great Beater Challenge, what has been to you probably the most memorable vehicle to ever participate, or the most memorable breakdown?
Oh boy, there's been so many. It's hard to pick just one. We've had some local people try to do it in an old 1950s British car. One time was successful, another time not so successful. We've had people do it in old 50s Rambler Americans and Hudson Hornet we had last year. All sorts of real old classics. Then we also get modern cars where people will make up for the fact that it's a modern car by just going crazy with the theme on them. We've had replicas of the Ghostbusters car. We've had replicas of the Ford Explorer from Jurassic Park. And that one got featured a lot on social media. All sorts of fun stuff like that.
So it does actually bring in a lot of eyes from the car culture community as well. Like, yeah, it sounds like some of the participants in past years have really made kind of an impression on social media, or even gone, like you said, so far as to get the attention of bigger auto blogs.
For sure, yeah. We've had quite a few people come along and do YouTube videos about it after the fact. They film it during the event and then post it up online after, and there's been some very good productions about that.
Very nice.
Awesome. You guys, this has been a really great introduction to the Great Beater Challenge. I know that you want to come back for more. When we come back, Ben and Peter will be talking about cars and some of the components and mods that goes into some of these vehicles that make it into the Great Beater Challenge. But for right now, we're going to take a short break and hear from one of our sponsors.
Do you or someone you know have a passion for photography? Have you always dreamed about owning your own business as a photographer? Larkspur Business Brokers currently has a turnkey photography business available for immediate purchase in the Lethbridge area. Don't miss your opportunity to get started on the path to owning your own photography business. For more information, visit www.larkspurbusiness.ca.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Get Candid with Clara. I'm your co-host Ben Martin for this episode. We're here with Peter Brooke the founder of the Great Beater Challenge. Peter, again, thanks for joining us on this episode. So, Peter, you're a car guy. I'm a bit of a car nut myself. And so we decided that the best way to shed light on the different types of cars within car culture is to ask, play a little game. And so I'm going to show you some pictures of cars and get you to answer. Is it a beater, a sleeper, or a junker? And we'll debate that a little bit. So here's the first one.
Okay. That's a beater.
That's a beater?
Answer quickly.
Definitely got that one right. All right, next.
That's a beater. I've seen things like that on our event.
That's a definite beater.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, you're 2 for 2. Oh my gosh, that looks like something my uncle drove.
We're going to get to that one in a minute. So how about this one?
That's a sleeper. It's way too nice.
He's bang on. That is a sleeper. Funny story with this one. I was doing some research trying to find interesting cars for this segment. And this one actually has, I think it's a 6.6 liter. That's just something insane that I did to it. You can't really see it in the picture, but there's side profiles of it, and it actually has the big fat racing spikes on it. So it's definitely a sleeper for the track.
All right, you've been too easy on him. Give him a hard one.
All right. How about this one?
That's a. That could be either a sleeper or a beater, depending on what's underneath it.
Well, see, I thought I'd throw a curveball at you with this one, because it's kind of a junker, but at the same time, this is the kind of car that, its own rolling shell that somebody might fix up and turn into premium muscle. So this is kind of a curveball car.
Well, this is where my curveball comes in, is that very few cars are junkers. Everything can be saved.
There you go. That's the attitude to have this car. Yeah. All right, next.
Oh, that's a sleeper, and I want one of those.
I should have picked a better one, knowing that you drive a Crown Vic. You would have known right away what that one is.
Yeah.
So this one, it's called a Mercury Marauder, and it's built on the platform of a Mercury Grand Marquis, but with a twist. It's got basically a supercharged SBT Mustang Cobra engine in it, so it puts out close to 600 horsepower. It's actually a very cool car.
Yeah, I get the four valve engine in them.
Yeah, I actually had a chance to test drive one of these once, and I got to tell you, that was an experience. Like, I did not expect that the old Mercury Grand Marquis looking grandpa car would just blow the doors off the way that a Corvette would take you off the line.
Yeah.
Like, this thing is a total sleeper car.
Oh yeah.
All right, so this one.
That's probably the closest thing to a junker you've given me yet, but I would still say beater. It just needs everything.
Nice. I think you're like 5 for 5.
Nice, he's very much
You're a
100%.
master. Yeah.
All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about ridiculous mods. And I have to get your opinion on some of these, and tell me if this is something you would expect to see at the Great Beater Challenge.
Sure.
So here's your first one.
Oh yeah. I think my Geo Metro for this year might be getting a flapper valve and a stack off the back of it.
Nice. Oh, I love that.
And of course, I have to highlight the fact that it just happens to be parked in a Walmart parking lot.
Yeah.
That just speaks to the level of class.
Yeah.
All right. So next we've got some other ridiculous mods, like this one.
Oh yeah, that's GBC level.
Great Beater Challenge mod. Nice. See, I think it's important to have the showmanship
Yeah.
for the Great Beater Challenge.
Now, that said, of course, it's important when working on cars to talk a little bit about the importance of safety working on vehicles. It's good to have all the proper tools.
Yeah.
So tell me, do you think this is a safe scenario?
No.
Oh dear. Oh my gosh.
I still know people that do it.
Yeah, that looks like it's in the backwoods of like behind Black Diamond.
I think the better question here is, how did he even manage to get it up there like that in the first place?
Still.
You would never see that in the Great Beer Challenge because your mechanic, the quality of mechanic is way higher.
Sure. That's all I've got. That's all I've got for photos in the game. Yeah, you did really well. You pretty much nailed it 100%.
Absolutely.
So.
I gotta ask, like, what is it about cars that really that speaks to you? Is it something that that you fell in love with at an early age, or was it something that developed over time?
Yeah, my family's always been into cars. We always watched motorsport when I was young. And it just kind of grew the older I got. Obviously, as soon as I could drive, I got a license, and I went up and I actually started with a scooter, and then I moved to a little Chevy S10 pickup that I bought for cheap and did a bunch of work to in high school, and kind of went from there. I kind of had to self-teach myself how to fix things because I couldn't afford to pay anybody else to do it.
No, so you're a self-taught mechanic. Yeah. So what was it about, about the motor, the engine, the engineering of a vehicle, what really grasped your imagination when you were working with cars when you were young?
Just about everything. I mean, I just enjoyed the feel of traveling and driving, the freedom that it provides, and obviously going fast is fun too, but in a safe scenario.
Yeah, that's cool. So I heard before that you were a big fan of Crown Vics.
Yeah.
Can you, in your own words, tell me what is, because I know that's got a really tight culture surrounding the Crown Vics. Can you share with me, where does that come from? What's that all about?
Well, it's like they took all of the good parts from stock Mustangs and put them into one vehicle, and then they made it stronger, but then they made it heavier.
Yes, and then they made it heavier.
Yeah.
So the thrill of driving it.
Yeah, I like taking a car that nobody looks twice at and then beating up on people in autocross or something.
Nice.
Like that.
Oh, cool. Coming in a little stealth.
Yeah.
And undetectable.
Yeah. And if you're driving down the highway, I'm sure everybody's looking behind them
Oh yeah. If you drive on the highway at night, no one will pass you.
Probably till they see the wheels and they're like, oh, that's not a cop.
Yeah. Depends which wheels I have on.
So what's your favorite? Is it the sound of the engine or the feeling of the acceleration, if you had to pick?
Both. Yeah.
Both the sound and the acceleration?
Yeah.
I know it's absolutely hard to pick. Are you still working on your own cars? Did you make a career out of it?
I didn't sort of. I started out actually as going to school and becoming a motorcycle mechanic as an apprentice for that. But then I wound up getting into parts after that actually, and now I'm the parts manager at a heavy-duty dealership in town.
Oh, cool, right on. So you're still very much involved in the day-to-day, talk and shop.
Oh, yes.
On the day-to-day. So how have cars, in your opinion, I know this is a bit of a hot topic, but how cars have changed in the last 20 years with computer and chip technology. How have you adapted, and is that does that play a factor into why maybe the Great Beater Challenge was created in the first place?
Well, as far as the evolution of vehicles goes, I actually, some people are always like, oh, the old stuff's the best, and hate the new stuff with all the computers. I like it all. The new vehicles, they can do so much that in one package that an older vehicle couldn't. They have all the fancy technology in them, and you can be sitting in comfort while having a turbocharged engine that propels you along very quickly. And then the old stuff has a bit of a romance to it. Mm-hmm. There's the smell, the feeling of an older vehicle, and the simplicity of it. You can fix it with a hammer and a wrench, and there's good to that too.
So I have a question. As a car guy, we all remember our very first car. Mm-hmm. And so you mentioned yours was like a Chevy S10. Mm-hmm. For me, my personal favorite sort of first vehicle that I remember I had, and it was it was a total beater car. Yeah. But you'll laugh when I tell you. It's a 1988 Ford Mustang Fox body hatchback with the 2.3 liter, which was like the bastard car of the Mustang ever.
I actually ran a Mustang on the GBC a few years back. It was a Fox body. It was a notchback, but it was originally a 6-cylinder manual car that someone had very badly swapped to a V8 automatic.
Oh.
And it was, that's probably the car I've owned or done the GBC with that still scares me the most to this day as to the how bad the brakes were and everything, how much rust there was on it.
It's like the wheel might just fall right off.
It almost caught my garage on fire when I was working on it once. It was a bit sketchy.
my first memory of the Mustang, and this is just a part of the experience of car ownership, is all these little perils that we get, you know, as a car owner. I think you can relate. Obviously, that's part of the experience that inspired the Great Beater Challenge for you. And my first memory was that my Mustang, I was driving it down Deerfoot. One of the exhaust brackets had come off, and I heard this loud scraping as I was going 110 down Deerfoot, Calgary, right before a loud thunk, and everything just got loud. I look behind me, and my whole exhaust, from the cat right to the muffler, is laying in the middle of Deerfoot Trail.
Were you in the Great Beater Challenge that year?
No, I should have been with that car.
So hey, I gotta ask for your best tips. So for anybody watching who wants to get in on the Great Beater Challenge, which could you give like your best tips for getting ready?
Well, the first thing is start with something that runs, unless you've done it a couple times and you know what to expect. Start with something a little easier, and then once you come out and you see what it's like and you enjoy it, then move to something a little harder. Because there's people which will pull 1950s, 1960s cars out of a field and get them running and spend months and months doing that. But I always recommend start with something that kind of runs and drives as it is, and have fun with the theme of it.
Yeah, fair. So you want to be pretty sure that you can get it to drive 1,000 kilometers with some confidence.
Yeah. That being said, we do have sweep, which will come along and help out people if they do break down. We'll tow them to the next spot where they can either repair the vehicle or leave it.
Oh, I love that.
Later.
Okay, so you're not like completely stranded on the side of the highway with no hope. There's a sweep that comes along and helps just move everybody on to the next town or to tow the vehicle or whatever's needed. Or a flatbed. Do you have a flatbed that you drive around?
We usually bring a flatbed trailer.
Yeah, flatbed trailer, perfect. Yeah, no, that's really good. So all of these old vehicles, like what is it about these old vehicles and like and getting them up back on the road and roadworthy? What was it that inspired you to get this going?
Well, I just like to see old vehicles given a second chance. It's something that would sit rotting in a field or sent to a junkyard to be crushed, where there's still plenty of life in it if you just spend a little bit of time with it.
Yeah.
And you can get it going, and then you can travel and see your own backyard, see places of your own backyard that you haven't seen before. A little small town, Alberta, Saskatchewan,
Nice.
BC, little things you never thought were there. And that's what gives me the most joy, is people enjoying that kind of
Oh, I love it. It's like really the whole experience. I really love that. Of course, it brings me, I'm older than both of you, makes me think of Cannonball. I'm sure you've heard people reference that.
Yep.
I can't imagine how many laughs and good times you guys have during this challenge.
Oh, it's a blast. Usually the overnight stop when everybody is able to park and camp, and we all swap stories and everybody's having a good time.
Yeah.
And yeah, that makes me happy, is when everybody's there and enjoying it.
Oh, absolutely. And are people coming back like year after year?
Oh yeah, we've had basically most of the teams which did it the first year have still kept going every single year.
Wow. And when did you start again?
2016.
2016. Oh, right. So this is like your 5th Beater Challenge.
I believe it'll be the 6th this year.
The 6th this year. Oh, congratulations. It's such a really cool, awesome event that I had no idea about. That's why I'm so happy that Ben invited you to be on the show, and that we could share it a little bit with our audience, because I think it's a pretty crazy, wild idea. Do you know if anybody else is like, I couldn't find anyone else doing anything like this.
There's been a couple of smaller events in Alberta, but as far as there are larger events than mine, things like the Gambler 500, that takes place in BC as well as down in Oregon and a few different ones in the States. That one's grown very big. That one's very off-road centered. And then there's also the Lemons Rally in the States. They have a number of them. That was actually some of my inspiration for starting the Great Beater Challenge.
Yeah.
I took a lot of ideas from them and then kind of molded them.
Did you do the Lemon Challenge?
I haven't. I still really want to, but they're a little out of travel range for me still. So.
Good. So just when's this event happening, and is there a deadline to register?
So it's the last weekend of August, I believe 27th and 28th this year.
Nice.
Deadline for registration, I believe, ends 2 weeks before that.
Okay. Okay, perfect. So that's really easy to get in on. Oh, what a really fun weekend. Do you want to tell us, could you share just maybe one story with us about either your own personal experience in the Great Beater Challenge or something gone horribly wrong?
Well, there's been a few. We had a team that had a Triumph TR7 that exploded. We left from Lethbridge and it made it to the Crow's Nest Pass before the engine exploded in it.
Nice.
We had a team that I always have to give props to because they had a kind of 80s, 90s Chevy pickup, which not that kind of exciting and pretty reliable vehicle for what we see. But they decided to make it so that their whole family could sleep in it by taking a tent trailer and instead of towing it behind, mounting it on top of the bed. And then their fuel pump went. And in that sort of vehicle, you have to either drop the entire fuel tank to change the fuel pump, or their decision they decided to do was they crawled underneath the tent trailer in the bed, cut a hole in the bed so they could access the fuel pump, and changed it. And they kept going. They made it to the finish.
All I can say is get her done. Like that's get her done. That's very ingenious.
With some of the crazy things that you see in the Great Beater Challenge, would you say that there's perhaps some inspiration from shows like Top Gear who've done these crazy cross-country challenges?
Yeah, I think just about everybody in the car world has watched Top Gear.
Absolutely. So. Well, I wanted to ask because, it's really creative, and a lot of people don't necessarily associate creativity, with cars or with mechanics. Do you think that this is a really good creative outlet for people?
For sure. I personally think there's a lot of outlets for creativity in the automotive world, but this is definitely a good one that's local. I always get people who are normally drag racers or autocrossers or that kind of thing in the area, people who partake in for instance, Street Machine Weekend, who come out to my event as well and enjoy it.
And one last question. I mean, we touched on it a little bit, but there's just those different types of cliques within car culture, and I mean, you have your racers and your. Do you see any of that with the Beater Challenge, or do you find that everybody just kind of comes together with, for the camaraderie and the spirit of cars bringing people together?
It's everybody together, but you will see people who, for instance, if they have a favorite car brand and they have a lot of spare parts kicking around for that type of vehicle, they will certainly choose a vehicle that matches that, or if they like imports, they'll get an import. If they like classic muscle, they'll try to get something like that. It usually reflects their interest.
Yeah, I love that. Good. Well, thank you very much, Peter, for sharing so much about the Great Beater Challenge. I'm excited for the event, and I'm glad that I know about it. I personally won't be entering, but I know some people that might be actually really excited about this opportunity.
One thing he should mention, unless it's a change, you also have, if people maybe don't have the budget to participate in the actual challenge, you do have people who can just come along for the experience as well.
Absolutely, and we are always looking for volunteers as well. We need volunteers to help us do our scoring and judging. We need volunteers to help us with sweep and helping out that way. We have a team that we call FART, which is the Fast Action Recovery Team. And those are our guys who maybe just have a pickup or a car or something like that, but bring tools along, and they'll travel mid-pack and help people out if they can help out with something small on the side of the road.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, I love that.
Yeah.
Good. Well, hey, we always like to wrap up every episode with a series of rapid-fire 10 questions, and it's just a way for us to get to know you better.
Sure.
Yeah, are you ready?
Sure.
Okay, let's do it. Peter, what's your favorite word?
Oh boy. Today.
What is your least favorite word?
These are harder.
What's your least favorite word? What word do you hear that just makes you cringe?
Moist.
Yeah, there it is. What turns you on?
Somebody with an adventurous personality.
Nice. And what turns you off?
High maintenance.
Fair enough. What sound or noise do you love?
What I call it, I started up.
Nice. Yeah. What sound or noise do you hate?
Squealing brakes.
Mm.
So that. Yeah.
What's your favorite curse word?
Fuck, because it's very useful.
All right. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
If I could, I would like to do something to do with travel. Definitely maybe like a tour guide or something to do with being able to introduce people to new places.
Nice. I love that. And what profession would you not or never like to attempt?
Plumber.
Plumber. Fair enough. All right. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
For me, it'd be, here's the keys to your new Ferrari.
Yeah, here are the keys.
Yeah, probably something along the lines of pick your track.
That's wonderful. You've been an amazing guest. The Great Beater Challenge is amazing. You guys, thank you so much for watching the show. Thank you, Ben, for co-hosting with me today. It was a real pleasure.
And Peter, where can people find more information on the Great Beater Challenge?
Best place to have the most up-to-date information is our Facebook page, Great Beater Challenge, or on our website, greatbeaterchallenge.com.
Perfect, great. And I would like to thank you guys, the audience, for tuning in. Thanks for coming back, and a big shout out to Good Times for providing the space to film this episode. Peace out. We'll see you next week. Our guest will be Mark Vella, and we'll be talking about his new project, Ken.